Recording. Waveform. Yes. Okay. And in 3, 2, 1, piss!
Piss! Welcome back to Twin Humanities, the episode that we didn't think we were going to have because we didn't know if we were coming back or if we could come back. This, I suppose, is the proof in the pudding. This is the song within the apple pie. This is the Jaffa cake of realisation and resolution, or at least... Here we are. I'm excited to do this. I've been pacing. We were supposed to be doing this at 8 o'clock, and I genuinely was pacing about the flat. I was really excited, and and you were like, I could possibly do this in 15 minutes. I was like, I'm ready. You were like, I need to wash some pots.
Yes, we've just finished a large spag bowl dinner, and you know if you don't wash a pot straight away, the spag bowl sticks, and then it's just a bad time. It's a bad time. So we washed up good. So we are a little delayed from when I said, but that is for a very good, cleanly reason.
Marvellous.
Thanks.
Well, thanks. Tonight's coffee is espresso roast. So we were on the dark stuff.
Oh.
The dark stuff. So we the idea for tonight's...
Whoa.
What?
Tonight's tea.
What? All right.
Tonight's tea is Portsmouth tea from local tea place allabouttea.com. It's a nice blend made for the waters, the crap, bitty, nasty, dry crap waters of the south. Is
this left over from Christmas?
This is part of Christmas, yes.
Yeah, there we go.
I think Laura got me somewhere in the region of like 250 bags of tea.
Yeah, I think
over Christmas.
That was
the Christmas tea only. The Christmas tea only ran out last week.
Should we press on?
Let's do a show, shall we?
Let's do it. So the idea for today's show was under the banner of cover version, which you've probably seen on the episode title. But Pat had started playing Salt and Sanctuary. I started playing Nioh. So there were a few discussions, I think, on... I think one of the lads from You Died sort of was talking about... what was that really bad Souls cover version, allegedly?
Lord of the Fallen.
Yeah, that's the one, with the egg with the beard on.
Yeah.
That, why play a cover version when you could play the real thing? And I think he applied that to Nioh as well, pre-release.
Prio.
So yeah, we've got a nice little bounce around beyond Souls, and then we've got a few other kind of Soulsy bits to tie up with as well.
Yeah.
So
we've got some Souls likes that we Souls like.
Which is kind of cool because it's nice to be. In a roundabout way, this is kind of weird because we both got a little down on that DLC from Dark Souls 3, so to speak. And it's kind of nice to be like a little bit bouncy, a little bit positive again.
I would absolutely agree with that. It's nice to also be able to say the phrase Souls-like without thinking games I hate.
I don't know. That's been bothering me in and of itself because for the longest time. Do you remember when I first turned up on when we first said hello to each other when it was Polygon on the Verge?
Aye.
On the message boards, and I put up a post then about Dark Souls 2 versus Demon Souls 2, and how that might be sort of quite good for the games, and if one of them was from and one, with Sony owning Demon Souls, if they maybe gave that to somebody else, and as to whether the different ideas and stuff would propel the other one on, and there'd be competition, and there'd be very different games, and It's weird that there's not been more games like this. It's a term that everybody wants to wheel out. That it's like the Dark Souls of ... But I think there's been very little that's actually kind of gone near it. Even though the summoning mechanic and invasion mechanic has been quite widely used now. I think by. There seems to be two schools of thought on it, isn't there? There's the summoning and invasion mechanic, like with your Watch Dogs, for instance, and then there's your difficult game with fire-like checkpoints, which is what a lot of the other ones seem to try and do. Yeah, and you know, there's even with that sort of marketing bollocks with like the incredibly hard. There was even one tonight like for Nioh, which turned up on Twitter, which just made me sigh because there was like a little bit of a, I wouldn't say boss battle. It's like a sort of mini boss that clearly sort of comes back, but it says tough as nails RPG #Nioh launches at midnight. Who has got it installed and is ready to #defy death tonight?
Oh, fuck off!
Seriously.
Oh,
that's veering really close up to it. But nobody kind of looks at something like Destiny and kind of continues battering on about Halo. And you know, loads of first-person shooters have influenced each other and re-influenced each other and redefined things and stuff, but nobody really sort of continues on that lineage. And whereas the Souls games were the first to do what they did, I don't know. I'm feeling that as I get into the Nioh stuff, that maybe it's the first kind of breakout beyond Souls because it's not what I expected.
Or maybe it's the fact that we've not. You mentioned like the Destiny Halo comparisons. Maybe it's the fact that a lot of these cover versions almost don't surpass what's come before. Maybe,
I don't think that's
or maybe they don't
true.
do enough to mark themselves as their own thing past it. I mean, I would argue that like Destiny, for instance, is its own thing at this point. Like,
yeah, I think that's it. I think it's getting an identity beyond the influences, of seeing the influences, but kind of ignoring them as you go along because they're not important.
Being able to think of one without the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to sort of tickle into Nioh in that regard because it's not what I expected. It's not. It's absolutely not.
Intriguing.
Because we've got an interesting thing here because you went in on the alpha and you played the alpha.
Ages ago. Yeah.
I didn't go near any of this because it made Nioh first made a splash at Tokyo Game Show, wasn't it? And everybody went, "Whoa, what's that? That looks a little bit Dark Souls meets Witcher."
Yeah, that's base. I think that's the exact words I used.
Yeah, it was just like silver-haired man, Dark Souls-ish stuff. That's a little bit Dark Souls meets Witcher.
Yes,
and I think that it's really interesting to view from afar what's happened there, and I'll get your thoughts sort of on that right now because you played it, didn't you? You played the alpha.
I did, yeah. I tried the alpha when it was first announced. It's the only one of the alphas and betas that I've actually jumped on.
Yeah.
I've not bothered with the ones that have been the last few weeks. I don't know why, because I thought, maybe I'll give it another go, and just couldn't be bothered to install the damn thing. I'm busy. But I tried the alpha, and I thought it was piss, mate. I thought it was horrible, really bad.
What sort
it starts you with nothing. Like the very first alpha starts you with basically nothing.
Whereabouts are you? Are you in Japan at that point?
Dirty beach.
Oh, okay, right.
A dark, dirty beach. You sort of start like with water nearby, and you kind of walk into like a town, a Japanese hamlet of sorts, and then a couple of dudes turn up, and you fight one dude, and it's you do it, and then you fight two dudes, and it's way harder, and you fight three dudes, and I was like, you know what, it was too hard. I didn't gel with the combat. I didn't enjoy the fact that you basically start with nothing except a sword, so you're taking hits and they're wiping you out in 2 hits, which I thought was a bit silly. Like, give me something, and like I googled it, and people were like, oh no, you find stuff in the game. It's like, well, I don't want to find stuff. I want something to start with, you know.
Yeah.
Didn't quite understand the systems. Didn't understand the guardian thing. I think I picked the shark because I don't know, it's a shark, innit?
Good lad.
I just didn't. I didn't click with it. I gave it no thought, and classic me, first announced, thought, it looks really good, great, and then I tried the beta, and I was like, all right, and yeah, my hope level sort of vanished into the ether.
Yeah, I can understand that because the things that you've described aren't the experience that I've had, and it's interesting to be given a game that early as well. Like normally, kind of alphas and betas these days are just kind of, they seem like marketing for a product that's
it's a
finished.
demo.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like the Division and For Honor and things like that, very much feel like that. And I do like, particularly with PlayStation, sort of the rise of demos, because we spoke previously about things like Dragon Quest Builders and stuff. Like,
absolutely,
it's nice to be able to sort of chip in old school and be able to play something in again in the same way as you might on a cover disc or something. I mean, I didn't get near the alpha. I don't know. I think I was a little bit wary. There was just something that wasn't speaking to me at all at that point. And I remember hearing your responses and was like, oh. I remember from that point there were opinions right across the board. There were those who loved it and those who hated it. But strangely, a lot of the criticisms from either side of that matched up. I remember listening to 84 Play had like a massive discussion about it, about the things that they thought it did well, the things they misfired, the things that the game could do better, and solutions to it. And I think that Koei Tecmo listened to all of them.
Okay.
Like it's not one of those like, this is an early version of what's coming. This is pretty much it. We're going to tighten it up, and there we go. They listened across the board to the things that people said, and when the second beta came along, a lot of those people on either side were happy. Like things have been tightened up, and because there were those similar criticisms that were there. When you're then sort of involving people again, and it is a genuine conversation. It's not just this is what we're doing, and you're taking those on board, and you put out a second beta, and people are happy. Like either end of that argument are happy. That's interesting. And then they gave us something else again, and I didn't play that one, but I saw the PlayStation Access video. They did like an hour and a half, I think it was.
Okay.
And I just watched in and looked, and Nathan and Dave were just sort of showing off a few of the things that you can do and stuff. And I was looking on and going, that looks kind of... I don't know, I think that I mean, I like PlayStation Access anyway, but I think they broke down a lot of the mysticism for me as to exactly what the game was without taking away any of the awe about it. If anything, I was kind of watching on and just going like, oh.
That's what you want. Like, you want to, like, I mean, what the alpha I played, like, there's no direction at all, really. Like, you just kind of, here you go, work it out. And, like, I would have preferred them to sort of say, this is how this works, this is what this is for.
I think
which I don't think was there.
That is in the final game in a really big way. And not in a kind of Ubisoft, here is an hour and a half's tutorial.
Climb up a pagoda and unlock the map.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, that isn't there at all. So yeah, like I say, I looked into a few bits after that PlayStation Access stuff and found that the origins of the game lay in an unfinished Akira Kurosawa script.
Right.
Yeah, man. And a game that's gone through various iterations since the dawn of the PS3.
Interesting.
So yeah, I was talking about it on Twitter, I think, and just talking about the PlayStation Access stuff and the Kurosawa thing. I do like Kurosawa stuff. And Sony got in touch and just said, would you like to have a look? Which was bloody lovely of them. So take everything here with a pinch of salt. Consider us default corrupt, if you will.
You're corrupt so good.
But what I will say is, remember the same thing happened to both of us with Bloodborne, and that blighter didn't click for a long, long time after with me. So I'm hoping
that's true. You all remember the year that I was frustrated, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
We all remember that year.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give sort of a wee bit of an overview, and then I was thinking that after we've talked, I'll probably go into something a little bit more detailed and spoilery.
Okay.
Not like, I'm only a few levels in myself, so I can't really give like super amounts of detail. But something that if people are going, well, those are the mechanics and that's the way it works, I'd still like to get a measure of what it is. I can kind of go into a bit more detail about those first few levels and stuff.
Right.
So I think I'm quite comfortable with that, given that I don't know. It's a little bit of an unknown entity still for a lot of people. Since the weekend when I've been speaking about it on Twitter, I've had sort of quite a few questions, and it's
Is it actually out yet?
Huh?
Is it at time of recording? Is it actually out
it's
yet?
It's out today, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's across the world or if it might be tomorrow in the UK, because I think that Boomerang Rentals had it in today to send out for tomorrow, but I think it's out in America today. So yeah.
Okay.
So the first thing that really got me was I was really taken in by the story. It's a really amazing, quirky story that I didn't expect. And you know that wonderful thing when you're either watching telly or you're reading a book, and just the core of it just makes you go, "Oh, I'm up for this.
Okay,
I'm really up for this." Well, it captured my imagination in a massive way. And the voice actor for William is brilliant, right?
Is William the main?
Yeah, he's the main guy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Imagine I am a child who knows nothing.
Yeah, it's cool. So.
Okay.
I knew going in that William is based on heroic Western samurai William Adams, embellished with supernatural elements. So I believe William Adams is like the first Westerner to the first Western samurai, the first Westerner to hit those shores. But yeah, I was kind of
like that Tom Cruise film.
I don't remember it, but I know the film you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect the story centered around it, but I'll talk a little bit about that after the show in the sort of spoilery bit. So, the first level I approached gingerly.
Bit racist.
What?
I'm in the room, dude.
So I was getting used to the mechanics of fighting, exploring. The game's not really holding your hand at this point. It's just expecting you to work it out. The setting for this, I didn't expect at all, which is kind of cool.
Right.
So I sort of made my way through the game. I thought the game had bugged a bit, which was my fault because I'd done something. And restarted. And the point that had taken me probably about an hour and a half wandering through it, sort of slowly holding my breath. Took me about 10 minutes the second time.
Wow!
I absolutely smacked into it, and I think I got the camera up a little bit higher as well because it was very dark the first time, and I was playing it in daylight rather than.
Well, I mean that speeding through is classic Souls, right?
It is classic Souls. You're right.
Knowledge compresses space.
I think that also shows that the game was letting me figure things out. Not in the same way as you were mentioning, or as harsh as you were mentioning. The game was letting me figure things out with a few little pointers here and there. But as I was wandering into the unknown and testing that out, the second time that I played it, I raced into it, which like I say is credit to how much it clicked. And I went on, fought the boss. Things went way Metal Gear.
Right.
Just this amazing moment, like great characters, and I was like, fuck.
You need to specify what way Metal Gear means in this context, because I can't picture this.
I will do. I consider like way Metal Gear, and I'll go in, like I say, the details I'll go into sort of a little bit later, but I consider way Metal Gear like really outlandish, bonkers characters, like proper characters,
right?
But really left of center, really imaginative, sinister, look weird, moments that like throw you completely off kilter, and I was like, oh, that was really cool. And I could have gone back and restarted at that point just because I wanted to play all that stuff again. like fight this boss and see this end bit, because it was just, that's a villain, mate. That's a villain.
Okay,
that's cool. So yeah, that was the first level, but then it goes into an actual tutorial. So it's that opening level has given you the basics of what you can do, but this tutorial is set in a dojo, because it goes into the big sort of cinematic sequence from there, and it drew me in even more with the story in this sort of cutscene. And then when you, like I say, you reach Japan, you're in this dojo, and it expands the combat. It shows you the weapons, like different stuff that you can do. It introduces the bow and arrow at this point, and the musket.
Muskets are cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And it shows you the you've got this key meter, like KI, like key meter, that whereby you've seen it's like sort of a soul's stamina meter. Okay. Where when you attack, it goes down, and there's a certain point where if you push things too far, you like stun lock. You guys like, and it goes red, and there's nothing you can do at that point if you've let it go on.
Okay. But you've stamina fucked yourself.
Yeah. But your guy is like properly out of breath. It's not just you can't hit anything or you slow down. But the key meter, if you're hitting within a rhythm, there is like a sparkle of like dust that goes around you, like this blue dust. And if you then hit right one, it fires your stamina straight back. It's almost like it punches it back upwards.
Is this what's called the key pulse? I've heard about this.
Yes, that's it, yeah. But you can also, when you get the yokai later on, kind of the ghost that are very sort of ring that like crawl and like in a really otherworldly way towards you. If you're going through the level, they will continue to come back. But if you key pulse when you're fighting them on this kind of like smoke that's on the floor, it will wash it away, which is kind of interesting. And
does that stop them coming back? Or
yeah,
does that, like,
in that instance, yeah, that stops them sort of returning.
Okay.
So it also brings in stances at this point. That you've got 3 stances that you can use, and I'll state that I haven't really gotten into these yet in the main game. It's not become wildly pertinent at this point, but I get the feeling that it might do, because there's certain points like your high stance means that you'll hit harder, but you're more vulnerable. Medium stance, best of both worlds. Low stance, you're more defensive, and you can kind of pick at them. But and I've mainly just used the middle stance, but I've noticed that on the level that I'm at now, the enemies are adapting their stance to the one that I'm using. So if I'm using the middle stance, I've seen a few enemies now that will switch to like high to try and get the better of me. Or if I'm really going in all guns blazing, I've noticed them go to a lower stance until they can get the better of me. So I get the feeling that is going to like
they're going to get smarter later, and they're going to use that against you.
Yeah. And I'd say the game's still drawing me in at this point, but there's stuff like I say, the game just seems like it starts building on things with the controls and the extra stuff, and it doesn't seem too much. If anything, you're kind of like, oh my god, I can do this. Okay. But you already know what you're doing. You've already got enough within your locker, if you will, to play the game properly. But like I say, it's bringing in the other stuff on top. There's let me see, we've got the stances and stuff. From there I went into more story, new level, and just everything opened out. Lots more gets thrown at you. The combat just continues to be a joy, an absolute joy. And I found myself replaying bits, like going to the equivalent of a bonfire, because I wanted to try out new weapons from drops, or if I could do certain stuff from here or from here. And you go through the levels, and you find hidden throughout the levels are these like little sort of frog type men, these tiny little like plushies that kind of that play kazoos.
Yeah,
you can hear them when they're
normal.
like just doing this kazoo playing, and you take them back to the shrine, and they will you have the ability to choose a blessing from them. Now these blessings might be when you go through the level, there's a greater amount of potions that drop. There's a greater amount of like ammunition that drops, or you can, depending on which of these kind of little guys that you found, depends on the blessing that you get. So if I'm going through the level, I'm like, I haven't really got much elixir left. I can choose a blessing from one of them where I'll find more elixir. You also get the thing whereby there's tons of loot that drops, and if you go back to the shrine and you sacrifice it to the shrine, you obviously get money that you can then level up with. But if it's like a special weapon that you're cashing in, it will say, oh, this has got an unusual stat, are you sure you want to do this? And every now and again you'll get a bonus kicked out towards you because you're cashing in something that's a little bit special. So that might be like a firebomb or an elixir or something like that. But it gives you, not only are you getting stuff towards being able to level up, but they're kind of building up your stock of stuff. And I noticed that recently that, like I say, your elixir is your equivalent of your Estus flask and stuff, or your blood in Bloodborne. But I noticed that I just got like an accessory that will give me like unlimited, or the ability to carry unlimited elixir. So it's not like going up to like 9 and then going into a storage house. I've got a thing that I can wear that will allow me to sort of keep it there, which is kind of
carry as much as you can carry,
which is kind of cool, and sort of rids that Bloodborne mechanic of having to buy stuff or go and grind and things. And it's not become like super important at this point because I've not got tons of it, but I thought it was kind of cool. One thing that really impressed me, because I've mentioned before that I get like a huge Demon Souls vibe from it, huge, and a huge part of that is the combat is really heavy and really strategic. And one thing that I absolutely love, which might just be me, or there might be a few folks that go, oh, which was really only in Demon Souls, was having to switch your weapons depending on where you were. And the weapons won't go through walls. So you can't do that thing where you just sort of walk a little bit near a doorway and like stab a spear or something. It will like hit somebody on the other side of the wall.
You hear something go.
It doesn't happen. And a lot of the time because you've got two main weapons that you can switch between. I'm using like this axe and a spear at the minute. And the spear stuff you can either stab forward, or you can kind of slash to the left and the right. And when you'll get some enemies that are crap with the weapons that they've got, so they might run towards you and just do one swing and be fucked. Like most of their stamina's got, because you can see their stamina as well.
Okay.
And that might fuck them up, and they might go into like a sort of shut down sort of red mode as well. When they go on the floor, it's brilliant when they're on the floor and they're sort of readied out. You get the back of your weapon and you smash it into the back of their head. It's just like you're not even hitting it with the front or like a super like sweeping move with. It's just like hilt of the weapon, poof, like into the back.
Disrespect smash.
Yeah, and if you can kill somebody as well, but if you keep following through with the stabs, you will take their head off. Which is which is delish. And I had this
kind of fun.
I had this one bit which desperately impressed me where on this, like I say, this second level that I was in, I went to a bit, and if you see a guard, you can like, Bloodborne style, like throw a stone at them and try and draw them out. If a guard sees you and there are other guards nearby, he will call to them and they'll all run towards you. The interesting thing is that when I found that if there's like 2 or 3 of them, say, coming towards me, and like I say, imagine like a sort of a building. There's a couple of people sort of sitting inside the building, one at the door, and then like a guard that's near me, and another one further on. If that one guard sort of sees me and basically raises the alarm and they see him go, a couple of the enemies will run around the back of the house and start to flank me.
Ooh.
So it's not just they all run in one big long line towards you. They will go, if there are multiple like exits as well, they will each break off into those to try and surround. Dead impressed by that.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so there's lots of sneaking as well, sort of lots of Metal Gear sort of hiding and things. If you walk behind enemies, you generally the walk is a little bit quicker than they walk. I think a lot of that might be to do with the fact that I'm wearing light armor rather than heavy, but it's kind of nice going up behind someone and basically being able to do like a finishing move and just take them out without them knowing. There's, you've got your drop attacks like you have in like Soul stuff. People will switch between weapons, and oh god, I had this amazing moment that I was up on top of the roofs, and there's this. Occasionally, you get like this big sort of swirl of smoke, not just like a tiny one with the smaller yokai, and it will turn into like this big, like this big sort of demon that comes towards you, and I managed to lure it into a hole in this roof where it dropped down, and it was hiding away from the hole and looking up at me, which was amazing because I was like, am I going to have to kind of get round the other side of it to see you? It knew I was up there. It knew the place I was looking down, and it was staying out of my sight, which is fucking awesome. So I sort of ran away from there, and I ran onto the other rooftops, and the thing came out and started walking down the street. Like, I'm on the rooftops, thing is on the floor, and I was like, I think I'd fought this thing a few times before and like died at the last. It's got some like quite amazing sort of moves that it can do and stuff. And it was kind of my own stupidity or my own bravado that fucked me up. And so I'm running across these rooftops, and this thing's like really pissed off down below, looking up at me. And then I thought, I can shoot this in the face with a musket. And this demon was walking around the streets, looking up at me, unable to get back up, and I pulled out a musket and I shot it repeatedly in its face until it went down. And it felt amazing.
I mean, that is a classic CJ move, though, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, the arrow mechanics are really good anyway. If you've got the sort of stuff where on your reticule, it will show you kind of how far away you are for doing damage. Like, it will go yellow and it will go red, and if you're red and you're in kind of distance, you will absolutely wipe out their entire energy with one arrow shot, which is just again is wonderful. It's kind of got like almost like a touch of realism about it, and you get like crazy bonuses and stuff for it. But I just thought there was something really kind of masterful and like puffing my chest out about standing on top of a rooftop and just using a musket, for crying out loud. It looks great. And it's also got the thing where you pull it out and you start targeting, and you can hear the fuse going off. And I was like, oh, little stuff like that I really love. And on the floor, there are kind of gravestones, like these, like swords and grounds that have got like this red sort of smoke around them. And before I went online, they were kind of like fallen Japanese heroes or whatever they were, and it will show you the equipment they've got, and it will show you their level, and you can summon them back to fight them. And if they drop, you get all of that equipment that they were carrying.
Interesting.
I went online, and all of those fallen Japanese heroes that were there in the offline bit were real people that had died in the game. And you were summoning them back to have a fight with them. And literally...
Wait, are you summoning them or like a ghost wearing their gear?
Yeah, it's essentially like a ghost of the way that they played, the weapons that they were holding.
Okay.
But there's a wheel that kind of spins around them, and it shows you in like different colours kind of the sort of stuff that they were wearing, whether it be like light, heavy, like the quality of it and all that sort of stuff. And it will show you the level. So you kind of think, I'll have a fight with you. And it's fun. There's been a couple where I thought I would do okay and got battered because of the weapons they were using and that I didn't counter them properly, or I was just being a bit cocky. There's some great stuff later on where you're on side of a mountaintop and you lead enemies like towards you and then you spear them off the mountain.
Okay.
Stab them and they're like, oh! It's like, and I again, there's something kind of quite great about that where I was like going into the level and seeing more people and I was like, run up the mountain. They're like hide behind the corner, like, poink! They're like, ah! But at certain times where there was one guy who was wearing stupendous heavy armor and had got an axe, and he just took what I gave and just followed through and just absolutely like hammered into me. So yeah. Like I'm trying to think of like more nuance, but
what's the okay? I have a question
please.
then. Okay, so what is the world itself like? Like, is it levels? Do you have a hub? Are you in the middle of like a Dark Souls 1 sort of big connected world? Is it more spread out? Like, how does the outside of the first two tutorial bits anyway? When you say it opens up, how does it open?
Yeah, the first level kind of tutorial bit, it really is a level in of itself. Big, fairly big, but not so much where it wouldn't come across as curated. The main sort of level that I went into first time is just a really massive sprawling level, but again it feels curated. It feels like there's lots of little side entrances and things that are hidden and stuff to do, but it doesn't just feel like, oh, we've done an open world and we'll put a bit there and we'll put a bit there and we'll put a bit there. It all seems like it's there to be explored and there are little bits to find. And if you go off the beaten track, you might find something kind of cool, but you also might find danger. And the boss on that level was amazing in of itself. Also, there was a bit halfway through that level where everything seemed to be sealed off and I couldn't get to like the next bit. Couldn't get out to like this beach. And so I saw a guy beyond the place that I was, and I pulled out the bow and I shot him and I watched where he ran to get towards me, and that was how I got to the next bit.
Ah, okay.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's pretty nifty.
Again, when somebody runs towards you and stuff, you can see their stamina bar, so you can kind of see where they are when they're running towards you and stuff. And I was like, that's pretty neat, and it felt like it should be in there. And the nice thing was that after I'd finished that level, not only does it bring another like really great and crazy character into play, who sets out like the next step that you can do, but it also gives you a reason to replay that level. But everybody's in different places and there's a specific objective.
Okay. So
I was like, I'm not gonna move on. I'm gonna go for this. You know, it might be like, oh, there are certain things that we're looking for, or there's a boss that you need to hunt down. That's in not as in like boss, as in like big massive fight, but like a single individual that you need to
find this ogre and stab him.
It's not even that. It's a guy who's running the gangs that are guarding the beach, and even though you've moved on from there, you have to hunt this guy down. And when I got to him, I died to him about 3 or 4 times. before I eventually came back, and we mentioned earlier that you've got like a guardian spirit. There's a wolf, a shark, and a hawk, each representing like fire, water, and air.
Okay.
And every time you kill somebody, you build up a meter of I can't remember. Amrita it is the stuff that you're collecting, and Amrita is kind of a thing that
your souls basically.
It's not. It is and it isn't. It's kind of, this is a meter that you get for killing enemies, and when it builds up, you press 2 buttons on the pad, and it basically like super ignites your sword, gives you like or your spear or whatever, and it gives you like really flashy moves that you can pull off. So when I got down to the third or fourth time, I just I threw in like a couple of like fire bombs, and then like kicked in with this, and was just doing like these super like flips and like smashing down with a spear and stuff, and took him out. And it was like, you've completed the objective. Do you want to move on from here? Do you want to go forward? And now I'm at the bit, like I say, with a mountain, where I'm going into these catacombs inside a mountain. Loads of like really, it's gone from like an expansive village to these tiny little kind of tunnels that are inside a mountain, which is just great. I mean, Friday I finished up, ready to go out. I switched off. I sat on the couch, and I booted straight back up and played for another few hours. I peeled myself away eventually to go out, but it was still calling to me when I was out. And I'd left things at like having shouted at the TV, where like near victory became a stupid death, and it was my fault. So, yeah, I'll go into a little more detail with kind of the levely stuff and like the bonkers stuff after we talk. But I mean, Penny, a few thoughts. I'm sorry, I've like super nerded out on this, but I'm kind of a little bit. I'm flabbergasted in the fact that it feels like its own thing. It doesn't seem like Japanese Dark Souls, and it doesn't seem, you know what I mean, like ancient Japan.
I know what you mean.
Koei Tecmo Dark Souls. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like. I was really wary about the things that I'd seen initially, and I wasn't quite sure why. But there was, maybe it was that Lords of the Fallen thing, where I was just looking at something that seemed to be taking huge influence from something that I like and kind of pushing it away. And I remember your thoughts on the alpha as well. But it's hugely its own thing. The controls, I'd say the controls are more finessed than Souls, and I didn't think I'd say that. There's a lot of room for experimentation and quirk. And whilst in the DNA you can definitely see that Dark Souls is there, that is like way into the DNA, that they've done something individual, really special. Like I say, it reminds me of Demon Souls, that level of kind of it just feeling like unusual and and like
well, it sounds like the way you've been describing it, like it. When I watched videos of it, and I played the alpha, it did appear to me, as an outside observer, to just be. It just looked like Japanese Dark Souls, or Shogun-y Dark Souls, and that didn't really do much for me. The way you're describing it sounds like it's got its own ideas and its own things, and it's what we were saying before, where it's not, hey, look, Dark Souls, we can do that as well. Look how we do it. It's not. It sounds like it's different.
If From Software had updated Tenchu and had done all of this to it with kind of a little bit Dark Souls sort of behind in its DNA.
Or Onimusha, maybe.
Well, Onimusha's kind of a little bit more Resident Evil in that respect, I guess. But I'm just using Tenchu as like a template because it is like old school From. I think people have gone, yeah, they've done their own thing in the same way as Bloodborne, but it's as fast as Bloodborne and it's as dancey as Bloodborne. It's very much a level of kind of coaxing an enemy out and seeing what they can do. And sometimes, like I say, you'll get like crap villagers with swords or axes and stuff that can barely swing them, and you will get people that look more impressive who might even hold back moves until you get further into the battle with them. But you're kind of trying to coax them out, and you might try and, I might try and draw them out for an attack so I can like Bloodborne style, like dance around them and get behind and kind of smash in. Or I might try and like poke them out with the spear and see if I can keep them at distance if I'm not sure of what they can do, or and just test them out and see where they can be pushed before they come up with something more. But again, for them to do something more, they've got to have a full stamina meter. If I see somebody that's like desperately impressive and I manage to dance around them first, like hammering with a couple of axe swings and stuff, whatever they can do with the weapon that they've got, the stamina meter will dictate as to whether they can do it. And as to whether, if you've got somebody that maybe like swings in with like a few chops and then like does like a forward flip and like smashes down with an axe, if I've got his energy down to, his stamina down to a quarter, I haven't got the stamina to do that. If he tries to do it, he's fucking stun locked with red stamina, and at that point you can go over, and literally they're not even trying to get away from you at that point. They're like they're just standing there and they can't move. And the point where they're on the floor and you like smash into them with the hilt of your weapon is just belting. But there's a lot to do. Like I say, it reminds me, the actual combat reminds me of a straight down the middle of the strategy of Demon Souls. The weightier sort of aspects of that, kind of things seemed more considered, I'd say, than Demon Souls than it was in. And things got a little bit more arcadey, to use a term, in like when it went to like Dark Souls and things like that.
We've definitely described it like that before, definitely.
Imagine kind of the strategy of a Demon Souls fight, but with that level of dance of Bloodborne.
Okay.
And it works. It really works.
Nice.
But obviously a lot of that's down to like the armour that you wear as well. I mean, I've been keeping things sort of quite light and stuff, but
how is the loot in this? Because I've heard reports that it's quite loot droppy, it's a bit Diablo-y, it's a little bit Destiny.
Kicks it out like a nutter. Absolutely.
Is there too much? Is it workable? Because something I don't enjoy in games is when it gives you... I've tried Diablo, and Diablo just throws things at you the whole game. Like, hey, here, have 100 pieces of armour every hour.
There's a lot of stuff that drops. I mean, a lot of this stuff is like elixirs and like arrows and things like that you can use. There's a lot of quirky sort of stuff that, like with the yokai, when they're coming towards you, you can throw down salt, which will slow them down, which I really liked. And there's lots of quirky stuff that I haven't used. It kicks out a lot of weapons and a lot of armour, but on the one hand, do
you upgrade the weapons, or do you just trade them out for better versions?
You trade them out for better versions, but the axe that I got early on is still better than any axe that I've had in the game thus far. They're often imbued with like certain qualities as well. Like you'll get like regular ones, and then I've got some that are green. I've got some unusual armors that are starting to drop as well. But you can sell all those things at the shrine and get money towards leveling up. And it is a touch of a ball ache to do that, but it's constantly giving you like extra stuff like elixirs and arrows and odd quirky things with the unusual stuff.
It's not like Destiny where it's all just weapon parts.
No, it's not like that, but it's it's all going towards you leveling up. So if anything, it's kind of funneling you along a little bit more. But the weapons have quite distinct qualities. So even if like I got a few spears that dropped, there might be some that like add plus 10 life to me, or will make me run faster, or like with the armor and stuff, or will give me increased drop rates, or will there's loads of different variables that are there, and often you may be balancing out, well, that's a standard weapon and that's got a little extra push on top of that, well, look, I've got C scaling on top of that one, and even if it might be lower, that boosts from their strength, and it's giving me like unlimited this, or it's giving me a boost on life, or so there's a lot of quirk to the way that you want to play the game, and whilst it is kicking out a lot of like armor and weapons and stuff, there's a lot of individuality to those weapons which might suit your play style, which I find really interesting. So and one thing I saw on Twitter with Cliff was saying that he wanted a Dark Souls that was easier. That's the sort of game that he's looking for. I'd say it's very accessible at this point. There's a lot to take on, but to get the best out of the game, you will not be cracking into this, and you won't be throwing it on the shelf. I get the feeling that the further this game goes, the more technical it's going to get, the more it begins to ask of you, and I'm 100% fine with that. But the way that it scales itself from the start, with its accessibility, with the figure it out for yourself for the most part, first level, then the tutorial where it builds on those basics, then when it gives you like a huge level to kind of go out and practice them and become more fluent with the fighting techniques and the abilities, it draws you in. And like I say, at the point that I'm at now, it's asking me about, it's starting to challenge me a little bit more with stances and things. I'm noticing enemies adapt their stance to the one that I've got. Yeah, so I don't think it's easier than Souls. I think it's very, very accessible game. Do not be put off by thinking that it's going to be like super, super difficult. But I don't think that Souls are hard games. I think they're challenging, that allow you to play whichever way you want, and the amount of ways that you can play this, the amount that you can equip your characters, the sort of weapons that you get and stuff. There's tons that's there. Oh, I will say as well to kind of something for you as well. The music for the game, which the level music isn't fantastic, but the in-between level stuff and the cutscene stuff is beautiful. Is somebody called Yugo Kanno, who worked on Psycho-Pass and all of the JoJo's.
I've heard that name. Well, I spent a large portion of last week downloading many JoJo soundtracks, so I'm into that.
So yeah, but it's got. I suppose the one thing you can say with Koei Tecmo as well is that if this is liked, there's a good chance of like a Berserk version, a Zelda version, a Gundam version,
a Vita version.
I don't think you get this on.
Koei Tecmo are one of the only people who still make games for that damn thing.
I'd be very surprised if you could fit this on the Vita, to be honest. Although, and I don't mean this in a bad way, and I know you will understand the way that I do mean it, but in a lot of ways it feels like a PS2 game.
No, I take that comment always as a compliment.
Yeah.
To it. Like, PS2 games are the ones where, you could do a weird experiment, even if it wasn't, dead on, it would be a weird experiment, and you could try something different because you weren't spending, like these days, like £40 million on it.
This is it. We had this conversation ages ago, and I saw something online about it with regards to you've got indie games nowadays, and you've got your AAAs, but remember the sort of AA games that used to be on the PS2, where they might not have been like the biggest companies and stuff. And it might have been like a touch flawed, but it was dead ambitious, and there was quirky stuff in there. And it ended up getting a fan base that just figured it out, that just loved it, that just kept playing it. Might have been like one of the only games they got. They might have fallen in love with it for like a million reasons. And that's one of the things that kind of adheres me towards like the Demon's Souls aspect of it, but it also shunts it towards Metal Gear Solid territory as well. There's something very quirky and likeable and sincere that's here, which I think kind of adheres to all of those. I really like it. I really like it.
I can tell.
I don't make the Demon's Souls comparisons lightly. I just don't. But it's doing Demon Souls things to me. So yes. What do you make of that then? From going from the things that you experience with the alpha to the things that I've said in the final product, because
I'm more interested now than I was. Definitely,
I genuinely
the alpha,
think this is a game for you. 100% think this is a game for you, and I'll go into like the Metal Gear stuff. I'll like say a little bit further down. The game is definitely for you, and I think it's. You remember when we all played Dark Souls 3 and we were like, it's a little more Souls. It's Dark Souls again. It's tying into Dark Souls. There's not really a lot that's surprising me. I'm enjoying it, but it's Dark Souls. It's not that. It's not that, and I expected that. That was one of the things that I think was going to be a given. This kind of level of familiarity and like, it's all right. It's all right, but it's not. It's I don't know. It's a peach. I'm really taken with it.
Yeah, like the way you talk about it, I know you have a pretty high bar for this sort of thing. Usually, many of these kind of games just ping off of you.
The Dark Souls 3 thing was like a thing that I kind of graduated a little bit more towards the end, especially after that DLC.
Let's not forget the Dark Bloodborne year, shall we?
But I knew,
but the fact that you've pinged on this quickly to something means there's got to be something going on there.
But I knew with Bloodborne that I was doing like
that it was you,
like a very personal journey with Scholar at the time, which was I wouldn't shut that away. But I knew that Bloodborne wasn't going anywhere, and I knew it was definitely me. I could see that there was something special there with Bloodborne, and recognizing how special Bloodborne is, and recognizing how special it was, I didn't want to. I tried shoehorning that moment where I kind of really ran at Bloodborne and like kept on bouncing off it, but I knew that there'd be a certain point where all of the stars aligned and the blood red moon fell, and that would be really special. And I knew that was there. I knew that was coming. So it wasn't as if I kind of rinsed my hands of Bloodborne, because I that was part of the frustration. I could see how special it was, but it just wasn't quite bonding with me until the right point, and the point that it did was worth it for that point, because I heard you kind of light up and I was dead excited, and I couldn't stop playing it, and it's a wonderful thing. But if a game was purely copying off Dark Souls, I wouldn't be all smiles and trampolines like this. I certainly wouldn't be lit up like this, and I damn well wouldn't be making Demon Souls comparisons. It's great, but
I mean, no one's made that comparison with Lord of the Fallen, have they? So
no, and I think that it's interesting. It's interesting having more of an open story in this regard as well, rather than kind of like, this is the kind of the vague setup, and there's such and such here, and if you read the lore in their sword, and if you watch that video, that will expand upon that. It's very blatant with its story and its setup, but the characters are where the Metal Gear stuff comes in. The characters are just really outlandish and really cool and really unusual and terrifying and enigmatic. And that's what makes me go, all right, I'm going here and I'm going here, and this is a great fight. But ooh, yeah, and that I dig the hell out of.
Sounds neat.
Thanks, man. I genuinely think you would be all over this for reasons of the reason that we do this podcast, for the Metal Gear stuff, for that PS2 thing that I mentioned. Which I love PS2. I think has intrigued you more than anything. That kind of PS2 aspect, when games just felt like super curated, that they weren't. Somebody had really finessed and worked hard and passionately to shape the perfect level, and it looks pretty as anything as well, even on, common or garden.
All the shots I've seen look great.
There's a bit on the level that I've just been to with kind of the beach and the way that the sun is like beaming over, like with like huge bloom is beaming sort of from the other side of the ocean and just washing over the beach, and it takes my breath away. It really does. But belter. I know I've super nerded on about that and I've kind of pinged all over the place, but belter.
Excellent.
So talk to me about
excellent.
Salt and Sanctuary. Why at this point?
Man.
What brought you to it, and how did it gel?
So you remember that PSN sale over Christmas? The good one, the one that had the good money prices, where myself and basically everyone that listens to the show seems to have picked up Oceanhorn or Skyforce.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
We will talk about that soon.
By the way, if you buy Nioh based on what CJ just said, please tell us, because I enjoy seeing those tweets. They're always fun.
That was great towards Christmas
that was
to see
brilliant.
the folks that were going like, I'm going to give that a go, and it kind of did that thing that Kane and Rince sort of do, where they go, oh well, we're going to be talking about this game, and it turns up in a sale. That was the perfect moment for those things to kick in. But yeah, we'll talk about that in another show.
But we'll get there. But I did, in that sale as well, I picked up Salt and Sanctuary, because I think it was like a tenner at that point. And I was kind of itching for something new to play. As you do, you look at your hard drive and 30 games installed, 200 on the thing. You're like, oh, I've got nothing to play. And I don't know what it was. I think the price was good. Like, I think it was 10, I think it might have even been sub 10 quid. And I kind of fancied another sort of Soulsy sort of experience after, being so grump with Dark Souls 3 and having caught up in Bloodborne to the point where I'm sort of ready to go DLC with you now. So I didn't really want to get back into that, because I thought I don't want to push too far ahead. I want to kind of keep my character there. And I kind of had that itch to play something Soulsy, but not. And I generally balk at the word Souls-like, because it usually means game I don't like. And as much as people seem to dig them, like I bounce off most of them. And I figured Salt and Sanctuary would have been one of those. Like all the sort of pre-release stuff I heard and all the people talking about it on podcast, it didn't really sound that great.
It had a very strange.
You got annoyed at the typewriter feat.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I remember about any criticism before is typewriter feat.
It sounds like bubble gum has been caught in a typewriter when they work. It is that. But I don't know. I got a little bit weirded out at the Illuminati getting it and jumping up and down about it, when I didn't really see anything that was special there. I just saw something that was cribbing, if you will.
Yeah. Well, let me explain then. So I, again, just a couple of weeks ago, just fancied booting it up, like you do. I think the time was right. The moon, like you say, the blood moon was in the sky that night. The time was right. I booted her up. Mucked around with the character creator. Made myself a gingerman. I decided to try and not look things up if I didn't have to. I ended up having to break that rule a couple of times because I was going insane at one point. But I tried not to look things up, so I kind of made my guy. I picked the knight class because sword and shield. Go on, yeah, sword and shield. That's how you do these things. And sort of dove in. Initially, kind of felt a little bit weird about the combat. Didn't quite like it because it's basically it is 2D Dark Souls. You have a light attack, you have a strong attack, you have a shield, you have a roll, you have two different stances you can have.
Similar controls.
Although in this, almost. It's mapped more on the face buttons. So square's your light attack, triangle is your heavy attack. You've got to jump. Because as a side-scrolling game, you need a jump. You got to jump. Circle, I think, is what was circle? Was do stuff. Circle's your action button, and then you've got your block on your L2. You've got your roll on your R2. You've got your health items on your R1. It's there's throwable items on L1. I think I might have got that wrong. And it basically plays like a Metroidvania, like your standard sort of platform where you run around, you have a bit of a fight, and you move on. it wasn't really clicking much at first. You know, I was like, oh, I'm running around and I'm stabbing a couple of dudes, and I've met a man on a beach who said something incomprehensible, and I'm playing the obvious tutorial boss right now because that is basically hell that's jumped onto this boat.
Is it doing kind of similar things lore-wise, like the way that Dark Souls tells its story?
Yeah, it does it in a bit of a it's same way and different way. Like it does the same thing at the start where you kind of fight a few chumps and then you meet a horrible giant massive thing who is there to absolutely ruin you, and then you start the game proper once you've got that part. And there are messages, bottles on the floor, which your character actually picks up and takes the message out of, which is a nice little cute touch. And you kind of progress through, tentatively at first as you do these sort of things. But as you play, like you kind of, it kind of feels more like Dark Souls 1 than 2 or 3 have felt.
Okay.
Which surprised me. In the way that the game is set up, in the way that you play it, in the way that you explore it, and in the way that you learn about it.
Isn't it nice when kind of a feeling just like washes over you like that, and it's a realization rather than an expectation.
Exactly, yeah. It helps that I've not played 2 more of these games beforehand. You know, like a lot of this stuff is it's similar to things I've done before, but it's different enough that I'm having to learn new things. I'm having to kind of overwrite bits of my brain. Like for example, when you boot up Dark Souls 3, you know, you already know what you need to do to start doing some damage. You know, I need to get my shield up and stability. I need to get a sword. I need to make sure I'm doing my right scaling. You know, you know these things now. Going back, I've been watching the best friends do Dark Souls 1, and Wooly, who's playing it, it's the one he played last.
Okay.
Of all the games he's played, this is the last one that he has to play. Like he's played, I think he started on 2, then went to Bloodborne, then 3, then Demons, and now Dark Souls 1.
Okay.
And in certain sections, he is making a damn mockery of it because he knows how to control the game. And it's a blind playthrough. He's not played it before. Like he's playing it with Pat guiding him. But he's learning. Well, he's learned a lot of the skills you need to know already. So he's doing quite a good job.
It must be unusual to kind of move backwards in that regard.
It's the weirdest way of doing the game. Like it's the weirdest order. And kind of discovering like a lot of things that are referenced to in later games, like, oh, this is that. Oh, this is the Blight Town. Oh, okay, I've heard about this.
I think that's probably why
cool.
Bloodborne, people that started with Bloodborne, actually are really complimentary about Scholar of the First Sin, because they get there, it's really different. They really enjoy it for what it is. And whilst a lot of those people eventually move on to Dark Souls and think it's like better than Dark Souls 2, they can kind of admire it for what it is, but Dark Souls 2 has still got a certain resonance with them, I guess.
Yeah, I think your first one, the one you learn first, is always the one you come back to, isn't it? And like when I realised, like a few things contributed to it, but like playing Salt and Sanctuary for the first time felt a bit like playing Dark Souls 1 for the first time.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool. I haven't had that for a while, you know, that exploratory, like what is this game? What is this, like, what's happening right now? What is this?
So you're getting the Dark Souls feels while I'm getting the Demon Souls feels.
Mate,
hey.
We're so almost the same person. It's ridiculous.
I kind of like this. This also ties back to when you were Bloodborne and I was Scholar. So we're always kind of that harmonizing frequency, and I kind of like that.
Yeah. So to kind of delve into like systems, then the way it works. So the world itself is really tightly designed. Like this isn't something that's just been slapped together. Like this world connects. It is when you start getting into it, this is shortcut porn of the highest caliber. There are points. There was a point late game, and we're talking, you know, final 20% of the game, where I unlocked a shortcut to the very first area again, and it's like, are you shitting me? Wait, is this? Hang on, am I here now? What the piss? There is no map, which I kind of expected there would be. thought there might be a map, because it is definitely there's no unused space here. Like, this is one flat map. There's nothing that doesn't work on it. You know, nothing crosses over where it shouldn't. This is a designed map. You could probably print this out or make a poster of it on your wall, and it would be perfect. Like, it would work. So as you're running around, you can kind of sometimes sort of see shadows of things sort of half behind walls. And as you start unlocking these shortcuts, you're like, hang on, so I was in this place, I'm in the Hager's Canyon, and I've gone back to the Hall of Cages. Hang on, wait a second, is that what that door was? And, like, you remember these doors that you walk past and you couldn't get through, and you can see sometimes, like, you get gates, and you see a lever on the other side. It's like, oh, okay, I'll be back here, I know where I am. And then a couple of hours time, you turn up there and you go, I remember this place. What was this place? And you open the lever and you go through, like, oh, fuck, I'm here. Which means I can go down there, and I can go to that sanctuary, then I haven't got to do all of that again. It's really smart with the way it levels out, it spaces out its sanctuaries as well. So they're always placed in, initially, like, at the start of the level when you kind of bang through, have to wait your way through. But as the shortcuts start kind of cutting back on each other and cutting over, you can really sort of start jumping through whole parts of the game without worrying about doing the entire level again. Like, they're smart shortcuts where they're put in, and once you start learning the levels and you start learning how to navigate them quickly, you know, you can bypass half the stuff in each level, like you can with proper level Dark Souls. You can roll and dodge and just kind of hop off ledges and go, right, see you later, fucker, bye, and just sort of power through stuff. You can use the enemy, the level against the enemies. There are traps. There are kind of spike traps on the floor. There are big spiky tree branches that swing down from the trees every now and again. And the trap, like, trigger points are definitely there, but you're never looking for them. Every single trap got me at least once. Some of the traps have got me 20 or 30 times because I forget. One of them is placed on not a boss run, but like a common place you go past quite a lot, and I forgot every single time. So I'm running down, I go out my sanctuary, I go down a ladder, I start running to the right, I see the goblin, I think, right, I'm going to fight that goblin, thwack, knocked back 20 feet.
That's the most frustrating thing, when it is purely your own blatant stupidity. And, like, that level of, I used to kind of get into that a little bit when I sort of listened to podcasts, and I did sort of grinding in, like, Dark Souls and stuff, and I'd be like, tra-la-la-la, oh, come on.
Well, I'd do that. I'd hit the thing, then go, fine, turn around, back up the ladder, go touch the sanctuary again, and turn around and try again. Like, I'm not wasting a flask on that. No. I'm starting with as many flasks as I need. This is a hard game. So yeah, the actual world is designed really, really cool. Like, each kind of level is quite distinct. Like, you tend to know where you are. Whenever you kind of cut back, you're like, oh, I'm here. Oh, I'm here again. Like, there's not a lot of duplication. Like, you've got your forest area, you've got your castle, you've got your weird temple, you've got an underground pyramid, you've got the swamp, which is like the mire of stench, they call it, and it looks like it stinks, man. The guys on Bonfireside Chat, Gary, like, talks about how Dark Souls areas would smell.
Hadn't ever thought about that.
Prime candidate for a place that smells like it's terrible. I think the boss is even called the Stench Most Foul, and it's just a blob with mouths. It's awful. So yeah, the world really well designed. Like, it's interlinked. You kind of probe it and explore it, and you pick up keys, and you don't quite know where they go, like another game. I think once or twice I had to look, where does this fucking key go? I've been everywhere. What have I missed? And it's always something stupid, like, I'll go down to the left of here. Oh. But for the most part, like, you really uncover the map quite naturally. I don't feel like you're pushed a certain direction too much. Like, there's obviously, when you first start, you kind of do, like, boss 1, boss 2, boss 3. But by about boss 3, it's like, right, you've got 6 different directions. Pick one. Go this way. You might be able to do it. You might not. I get the feeling you could progress in pretty much any direction after a certain point, as long as you're picking up the right keys. You can pound through, and with the shortcuts available, you really can get some good little loops going. And sometimes you'll come to an area and you'll meet a boss out of the ordinary, because boss fights just begin. You'll tend to see a candelabra with, like, red candles on it, and it'll be like a 9-holder candle thing, and they'll have numbers of candles lit up. I don't know what that signifies. This is one of the things. I don't know how that mechanic works. But if you see a red candelabra, you've got a boss fight coming. Like and it doesn't look like there will be one. You run forward, and then the boss will appear, and they'll do the big kind of intro where it will kind of cut in on the boss, and it'll have their name up, like Witch of the Lake or the Sodden Knight, and it'll have them in the middle, and the music will start to swirl up, and the camera kind of does a weird kind of whoosh before the actual boss fight starts, and it's the same one for each boss. It's great.
How have you found the boss battles in 2D?
Honestly, really good.
How so?
Really good. Okay, so when you're doing a boss in 2D like this, you're not fighting the camera anymore. I think that is a problem that some Dark Souls bosses have, like your dragons and such. Anything that's big and jumps away from you, half of the fight is keeping the camera pointed at the boss, so you know what you're doing. You know, half of it is making sure your lock-on doesn't break. When you're in 2D, there's no lock-on to worry about. You just have to watch the screen, and enemies will jump off the screen, but you know where they've gone. You know, and you start to learn what to do when they come back. One of the first boss fights I really struggled with was the Krakian Wyrm. Wyrm. Basically a spiky dragon made of fiery bullshit. And it's really rough fight. Like, the thing will burp fire everywhere. It'll punch you as well, so you can't just double down on your physical defense, because if he does fire, it'll just rip through your shield. You know, you need to have physical and fire defense ready to go, you know. And you can't just block everything. You have to roll through some attacks, and you have to, like, jump over when he fire bursts the floor. When he flies off the screen, you can kind of run to the opposite side of the screen, so when he comes back, his fire won't hit you. And then as he flies back, you can jump and kind of slash him a few times as he goes past. I feel like whatever weapon or whatever setup you're using, I feel like there's a way around it. There's a strategy that will work. I used a bog standard. I think you start with a thing called a Varangian Spather, which is like bog standard sword, which is a class 1 weapon. And I ended up switching to a weapon called the Corsair's Backsword, which is like a saber, which is a class 0 weapon, which is by the numbers worse.
Okay.
But from what I found, it's the best strength one-handed sword that I've found.
It suits your playstyle a little bit as well.
Suits my playstyle, exactly. I'm doing the damage that's reasonable. You know, I found it really comfortable. I settled in with that kind of weapon really quickly. You know, it feels smooth, it's fast, and it's strong. There are weapons you can transmute. You know, you find a boss item or an enemy item, you can kind of turn your sword into something else. A lot of these require you to have kind of leveled up your sword's stat almost to wield them. And they will have different scalings. So, for example, like some of the higher level ones will have like magic damage, or they'll be dependent on your faith or your strength or your dex. As a pure strength guy, I was initially leveling up my strength until I found out my sword was a dex sword, but I was like, that's why I'm not doing very well. So I switched it out for the Corsair's Backsword, which is a strength one, which doesn't look like it should be, but it is. And found that I was doing much better once I'd actually understood the stats and not just guessed. With the gear, you're picking up loads of armor pieces as well. I found some really cool... It's okay, not to sound like it's like, it's like this, like the Black Knights. There's guys like that in this game as well. Every now and again, you'll come across just a strong ass guy with some cool ass armor and a big ass weapon who can be parried for days. And I had a really lucky drop early of one of their armor pieces drop, and I powered myself up to the point where I could use it, and kind of kept that on for the whole game. But you're finding bits and pieces, like you're encouraged to switch things around if things aren't working. The sort of the fat roll, mid roll, light roll boundaries are sort of quite malleable, so you can switch through, switch things in and out until you find something that works for you. I found myself, unless I had something specific to do, I'd keep the same armor on. But say, for example, this dragon I was talking about, I switched out to the chef's outfit, which is literally like a chef's hat and an apron and some boots, and it gives you really good fire defense because you're a chef and you work near fire.
I like that.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. Yeah. So the way that you level up, okay, this is again weird, like systems that are weird, and I had to kind of work out as I play. So as you play the game, you accumulate 2 currencies. You accumulate gold and you accumulate salt. If you die, the salt drops where you died. If the enemy an enemy kills you, it goes in the enemy. If you fell, it summons like a flying bat thing with all your salt in it. So you can go back and kill it and get your shit back. If when you die, you lose a small percentage of your gold as well. So say you've got 20,000 gold and you die, you will be dragged back to the nearest sanctuary. Like the screen goes dark and you see like a sort of very sort of blurry vision of the last sanctuary at with the words, "A mysterious cleric has awakened you and has taken 2,000 gold." And you're like, oh, okay, that's fair. All right. So money's like a resource that runs out eventually. But you can use it to purchase consumables, this sort of thing, money. Whereas salt is used exclusively for leveling up and for improving your weapons. So as you level up, you are given pearls, okay? These kind of black pearls. And these, at your sanctuaries, at your bonfire analogy, you use these in much the same way as you would level up with a Final Fantasy X sphere grid.
Okay.
So the leveling up system is that you have a constellation almost. It's almost like a star map. And in the very middle, you've got your point 1, which is like a health potion, and then depending on your class, you may all have 1 or 2 more filled in. As a knight, I think I had heavy armor 1 and swords 1. And as you play, you can then go through and you upgrade, be it just a stat point, like strength extra point, or willpower plus 1 point. Or you'll come across ones that, for example, are level 2 swords, cost you 2 points to unlock, but you get 2 points of strength as well. So you're not forced to kind of choose between a stat upgrade and being able to use better stuff. You get both when you come across those. There are extra pouches, which are the extra poultice pouch, which is your health item. So as you go through and upgrade those, you can kind of then hold more healing items as you kind of buy those in the constellation. So you haven't got to find stuff. You can literally just level up your way to more potions, which is kind of cool. And not the only way you can improve that as well. So you're not just focusing on the one way of doing it. You can improve the amount of potions you have by leveling up your faction, like your covenant almost, your creed they call it in this game, and by harvesting specific enemy drops like archer ears or hell guts and giving them in to your leader. You can then trade that for an extra health potion or an extra mana potion or a shock potion that regenerates every time you use your sanctuary, which is nifty, and it gives you another way of improving your stock in the game without having to just focus to one thing of I need to find more, like Estus shards, for instance. You go, well, if I level up 2 more times, I can carry another one, which is nice, and it's different. And it took me a little while to understand what I wanted from me, and it taught me not to just go for the nearest one, because that was through 3 magic points, and I don't need magic. I was a sword guy, I didn't need magic points. I thought I'll go a little bit further away, go through these strengthy ones, and then pick up there, and then I've like double improved myself. The grid is quite hard to navigate. Like, it's quite obscure at first. You're not sure what it's for, and you have to learn what the various icons mean. But you can scroll around and read things on it. It's not a problem. You can see what does what. But it does take a bit of exploring to find the things you wanna go for. Like you probably shouldn't just put things down at random. You should really plan out. Right, I want to go to heavy armor at least level 3. I want to try and get that pouch there. I want to make sure I can use that kind of shield. I want to make sure I can do good at swords. So I need to go that way, then that way, then that way, then that way. And it's cool. Like once you've worked it out, like you feel quite smart when you improve yourself. And each pip, so each like strength one, you can put up to 3 pearls in it, and you can get 1, 2, or 3 points of strength out of it. So if you have filled up the place you want to be, you can then double up over the skills you've already got, rather than try and expand down the magic route. If you don't really want to do magic, you can just double focus in on strength or double focus in on dex, for instance, and improve those stats independently, which I thought was a nice touch. You also pick up things called grey pearls, which apparently let you undo one you've done. So if you put something down the road, you fucked it up, you can undo that. Okay. Which is a nice little adjustment. I really like that. I haven't really used them because I have planned out what I'm doing, and I've got like 9 of the damn things. But it's useful they give you that option to not completely erase your build, but to at least adjust it if you've cocked up. Which is a thing, it's a thing you do in these kind of games. You think, oh, that's going to be a useful stat, and it turns out to be absolute bunk. Or I'm going to upgrade so I can use whips, and then you don't use whips. So that's kind of neat, and working that out has proven to be a little bit headachy, but makes me feel smart once I got it. Okay. And again, there's a lot of systems like that in the game. There's the creeds, for instance, the covenants. If you put your candelabra, which is your covenant of the 3 item, which is like the very first one you get, you put that down, it claims an empty sanctuary for that creed, because not every sanctuary is filled up with people. You find some that are like, oh, I am from the Devourer, or I am the poison guy, or I am the money guy, and those are different creeds you can join up with and level up with independently. And as you level up your creed, you can kind of unlock better things in the shop. If you say you've been leveling up your the 3 creed, okay, which is the basic one of the 3, and you've been leveling that up with a leader who you give the ears and the guts to, and they let you carry more health items. That's all well and good. So you stay at your friendly sanctuary, and you can carry 10 health potions, which replenish, which is great. If you progress through the game to, say, the poison swamp, and you stay at the poison sanctuary, which has been already claimed by the guy, but you've not leveled up the poison thing, and you, say, had 3 extra health potions because of your creed, if you stay at that one, you only get 7.
Okay.
And it'll be a different kind of health item. It'll be like a poison wine, or it'll be a magical herb or something. Like you get a different item to see, so you can see which you can see which creed you've stayed at last, which is quite helpful. You tend to find one of each of the creeds, and then the rest you pick out and you put down your own kind of creed item on them to choose them for yours. I just sticked with the random, the default, the 3 creed for most of it, because at one point I had 14 health potions, which is good. Like, that's good. And if I stayed at a different one, I'd have something like 8. And some of those bosses, I used every potion I had. Like, they were not dicking around, because the bosses evolve as you fight them. They start off, you learn their moves as you fight them, and then they kind of ramp up. So they'll either unlock new moves, or they'll get stronger, or they'll mix the moves up in a different way, or they'll get faster. And sometimes the hardest part of the boss is you can get through the first bit, but then the second bit, it's like, I can't. It's too much. It's too much. Most of them seem pretty fair, apart from 1 or 2 certain examples. The worst one being the Witch of the Lake. And the Witch of the Lake is your standard, floaty evil witch. But she just does the most irritating magical bullshit move. And she does 3 of them that are all as bad as each other. And if she does the wrong, 2 in a certain order, they're very, very hard to dodge. And they're the kind of magic move where if you get caught by the first bit of it, the rest of the move will kill you. It will kill you, no question. If you you can't tank it on your shield, because I didn't have a shield that was good enough at that point, so I couldn't tank the magic on my shield. And if one particular bit of this clipped you, you were dead. If she fired off this sort of shotgun blast of fire at you, you were dead. And maybe I might have gone through that. I think I spent 3 hours on that fight. 2-3 hours it must have been. I must have tried 30-40 times. I was running out of patience. I bought all of the pitch fire, which is the thing you apply to your sword to make it fiery. I'd bought all of my gold's worth of that. I spent all my money on just making my sword fiery, and it almost wasn't enough. Like, I've been through 40-50 pots of the stuff, which is a lot. But when I felt good to beat it, but I think that was the worst example of a badly balanced boss fight. Most of them are a lot smarter than that. My favourite one in the game is a boss called the Tree of Men.
Okay.
Which is a great name, and it exists in a place called the Red Hall of Cages, which is a really good level. Lots of shortcuts, goes down really deep as well. You're fighting sort of horrible monstrosities in the dark and the red, and it's just grim. It's dirty. It looks like it'd be rusty. And you reach the very bottom, and you walk into this fight of the Tree of Men, and it's basically like, have you seen the film The Wicker Man?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. So imagine a Wicker Man covered in dudes that are hanging off of him, like dead dudes hanging off of him, and the dead dudes are throwing fireballs at you. And your first job is to jump up around him on these platforms that are around him, of which it has fire blasts kind of shooting off every kind of 5 seconds or so on each of these platforms. So you've got to avoid the fire, take out the dudes that are hanging from him, and then take out the dude at the top of his head.
Oh, right.
It is ridiculous. It is a hard fight, but it is a good fight, and I think mid playing it, I was on Twitter just like all caps, Tree of Men, guys, Tree of Men, proper boss fight, and like eminently doable once you've worked out what you need to actually do, eminently doable. But working it out is the fun part. Like it took me a while to realise that if you stay on the floor, when he stomps, you fall off the edge and you die. And if you fall off the edge and you die, that counts as a falling death, and so there'll be a crow flapping around as well to deal with before you fight, or during the boss fight. So oftentimes, if I fell off, I'd then fall off earlier in the level, kill that crow, and then carry on, because I didn't have fuck all sort on me at that point. It wasn't a deal. It wasn't a big deal. So I was intentionally dying to make my life easier later on. But just such a good fight, and I beat it, and I did the classic, controller down, yassa, arms in the air, strong muscles, powerful man. So yeah, the boss fights, usually most of them are really, really good. As far as like lore goes, there's a lot there that I'm yet to dive into, and it's in many places as well.
Are you going
I don't think I might. I might. So there's not a lot. Well, there's not a lot of environmental lore being told. In the same way that, say, Souls, the way the levels are constructed means stuff. Like, it's definitely more of a video game level design. And the bosses kind of like, they're cool, but I don't glean a lot from them. Where you find these descriptions is in the item descriptions, and on the... actually, Kylie pointed this out to me, Gadget Girl Kylie, on the level up ability screen where you kind of put your pearls in, there will be a story told throughout each, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the swords, of the shields, of the heavy armors, of the whips, and you can trace a story of like a character through those. The character might not mean much in the game. It might be the only time they're referenced, but it's kind of, you kind of get a flavour for some of this world. You get a flavour for some of the things that are going on, and while there are NPCs in the game you meet, and they are, they're genuinely cool NPCs, there's a lot of, they're kind of fun to meet and fun to talk to. A lot of the really kind of meaty stuff is sort of in these sort of item descriptions and skill descriptions, I guess. As far as it all goes, I mean, I beat it, and I don't know what the fuck was going on. I've got a rough idea, but I need to really dig more in, because I finished the game. I was like, oh cool, I did this, and I'm going to choose this at the end, and that means I did this. I don't know why I chose that. I just picked one, and it was a choice at the end of jump in a hole or talk to a scarecrow. I was like, scarecrow? Yeah. And the game ended like, oh, that is the resolution. Okay, that's cool, I guess. But I think it's because I don't understand what I did. I didn't dig in. I was enjoying it for a game. I was really enjoying exploring it and getting the hang of the mechanics and killing dudes and, enjoying it for a pure play experience. And the game's actually not even that long. My total finish time is less than 20 hours. For, I think I've looked it up. I think I've missed 2 areas in the game. I finished it. You can't kind of go back once you've beaten it. Like, you beat the last boss and you're done. I definitely will be looking them up and I go through again, because I've started a New Game Plus run. I've started a Magic Guy as well. Like, I've tried a couple of different things with it. But yeah, I feel like I discovered most of what the game had to offer without getting too crazy. And 20 hours start to finish, it felt a lot longer.
Will you play it again, because it's coming to Vita, isn't it? Or is it...
I'm already playing it again. Yeah.
Is it already on Vita, or is it still coming?
It's still coming. Apparently it is working on there. They haven't released it yet. But I am 4 bosses into a New Game Plus run. And 2 bosses into a Magic Guy as well. Oh, and 1 boss into a Spear Guy. To try that out as well. It really encourages like multiple playthroughs. Like, I think the fact that like the magic apparently gets ridiculously OP after a certain point. Like, you get this spell called, I think, Dragonfire, that just eats things. But I've not really delved with any of that. I don't tend to delve with magic, as you know. I think the amount of weapons you get, I think there's 16 kinds of weapons, 2 different kinds of armor, and the things you pick on the magical wheel of abilities really dictate how you play the game. So I'm trying to play the Spear Guy. That's, trying to play him light armored and quick. Magic guy, I'm also going sort of heavy magic. My new game plus guy is leveling up ridiculously, so I'm trying to put all his points into willpower, which is your stamina, so he can attack more times. I'm enjoying experimenting with it, and I'm enjoying how quickly I can bang through the sort of first bits of the level, because I know how it all works, and I know where things are, and I know how to deal with my stamina, and I know what items are important. So I know if I pick up a lock of hair, I can run back to the blacksmith and I can upgrade that. You know, I know if I pick up a blacksmith idol, that I've got a blacksmith I can place somewhere. Oh, I should probably talk about that. So your shops and things that you would put in your sanctuaries, your blacksmiths, your merchants, etc. You have a limited amount of those, and you pick up items of, like, you pick up stone items, like a stone blacksmith, a stone alchemist, a stone priest. And when you're leveling up, you can choose to make an offering where you place one of these stones on the altar, and you can have up to 4 in each sanctuary. So you spend that stone, and then the vendor associated with it will turn up. So you can put down a blacksmith, and then a blacksmith will show up, and you can do blacksmithing there. If you're further in the game and you don't have a blacksmith stone, you can't put another one down.
All right.
You have to get back to the original one, and you can do that in a few ways. There's a guide that you can put down, which is kind of like your fast travel dude. So you can put him, once every 4 or 5 sanctuaries, and then you can use his special calling horn to go to a sanctuary he's at, and then he can send you to another sanctuary. So you can kind of tag team through them without having to run around too much. But I really like that it makes you think strategically about where you place them. And when you place them in, you get bonuses in the area as well. So say in the Red Hall of Cages, you put a blacksmith in the Red Hall of Cages, your weapon attacks will be a little bit better. If you put a merchant in, you'll get a little bit more gold out of the area. Not much, but a little bit of an increase. So you can really be strategic about what you're placing where and what bonuses it will give you as well. This is another one of these systems that I didn't understand, sort of like Humanity almost, where I didn't understand what I was doing. Like, why am I putting him there? Why have I got no blacksmiths left? What's going on? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. But now I get it, and now I'm, like I say, on these other runs I'm doing, I'm blasting through, and it's making sense, and I'm feeling like good at it as I'm doing it as well. I'm still having problems, every now and again with a boss or whatever, but as far as just a pure design game that I could put on, and I could just play, and just sit down and just play, proper great. Like I say, and it's probably the closest I've got to playing the original Dark Souls since I played the original Dark Souls.
Cool.
And I don't say that lightly, man. So yeah, I've also just talked for about 40 minutes straight with no breaks. Okay. Do you have questions, sir?
It's just interesting that we're both on board stuff that's kind of that we presumed would be Dark Souls light, and yet we're finding a similar individuality and identity than we kind of presumed, more so than in the recent stuff, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah, we're kind of getting the feeling of those games without actually having to copy those games. Almost, it's you're getting the same emotional resonance almost with it.
Were you a fan of like Metroidvanias sort of in general, or?
I like Guacamelee.
There we go. That'll do.
That's about all you do in Salt and Sanctuary. You do, as you go through, acquire like a wall jump, and there's one you pick where you can dash through the air, and you can jump to the ceiling and invert gravity, so you can run on the ceiling to pick up goodies. So yeah, you do actually some of the parts of the level are blocked off by learning a cool skill, which is kind of neat. But I never actually played Metroid or really even I played a bit of Castlevania. It was even on my Game of the Year list a couple of years ago because it was fun, but I never actually finished that thing. And I would say Guacamelee is probably the first one of those kind of games that I ever really got into, like, properly. And I've probably beaten that thing like a dozen times at this point. Like, I love that game. And this Salt and Sanctuary has a very high chance of being on that list of 2D game that I can play for hours and be totally fine.
Sweet.
Yeah, man.
And as we fire into a little bit of Souls news, you're bouncing back into doing your Wambro run. What returned
it felt like
you,
the
sir?
right time.
What returned you? And people have been sort of quite nice about it, despite the low resolution of early.
Yeah, the thing was recording in 480. I don't know why, but it fixed itself up in 2 episodes. I don't know why, because that was one recording session. I don't know why it did the first 2 like that and the rest the other way. who knows? Part of it was actually, again, watching the best friends doing their playing of Dark Souls 1 again. I was like, oh man, this game's still really fun to watch. I sort of got to thinking, like, I really should get back to that. Like, I need an excuse to get back to that. And I didn't really fancy doing it on Twitch, and I explained this in the episode as well, the first episode. I didn't really fancy twitching it, because while it was fun, I enjoyed Twitch, it was a bit of a stamina drain. And having to read the comments, and then play the game, and then read the comments, play the game. I kind of found myself getting a bit distracted, and as the game starts getting harder, I think I'd like to focus more. Plus, when something's on YouTube, you know, you can bite-size it, you haven't got to be there at the right time. You know, I know a lot of our audience don't particularly live in the same place we do, you know, a lot of them are in America or in Europe, and I wouldn't want to do something and have people be able to say, oh, I can't watch, you know, I'm at work for another 4 hours, and it's like, it's 9 o'clock at night, where are you? So I decided to go YouTube instead, so, you know, more people could watch it at their leisure. And I've tried to make the episode short as well, because I ain't watching no 2-hour YouTube video, you know. I even bulk at half an hour mostly these days. Like, I don't have that sort of time commitment anymore. Like, I'll watch a 15-10 minute video, but I won't watch much longer than that, really. So that's with that in mind, that's why I decided to stick to the format that I did. Like, and I thought, what better way to make the episodes a bit different than to ask for a few questions from people? And it gives me something to talk about, something that wouldn't necessarily come up on the show. You know, I've asked people for questions about anything, you know. First few episodes we've talked about, Jeremy Greer's asked a few questions about how, like, Souls has changed, like, you know, how I interact on the internet with people. We've talked about the hype train. I've talked about weird stuff that's come into my charity shop. Glyn Mooney suggested the first few questions, actually. I reached out to him when I was getting this all set up to ask for the first questions, because he is the most prolific YouTube commentator I think I've ever seen. Thanks, Glyn. You're a really cool guy. And yes, if you are listening and you have any questions that you'd like me to answer in a 10 to 15 minute format, please tweet them at me or drop them on the YouTube comments for my One Bro videos, because I will get to them all. I'm recording episodes in a sort of 4 or 5 at a time now, so I'm kind of banging through pretty quick. So if you have questions you wish me to answer, please ask them, and I will answer them in time, because there is a list about 7 or 8 long at this point, so it may be a while, but I will get to them. But it's been fun going back, man. Dark Souls 1 is still really good. and Ornstein and Smo fucking suck still.
Yeah,
they're really hard, man.
I remember doing a One Bro run with a friend in that bit, and they were amazing in their own game, and then they came into mine, and just everything fell apart. I can't quite.
They sound like a right dick.
Yeah. They just.
Oh man! The thing is, though, you should be happy. I am getting the comeuppance, because I'm doing it by myself, and it is not going well. I'm doing okay, but I'm just not quite good enough at this point. I need to train a little before the next session. I
don't think I left you that far from where you were, so I don't know. I'll see where I've got a character and might pitch.
Oh, I tried bringing in Solaire, and it made it worse.
Oh, okay.
It made it worse. He's not clever.
So in other
so yeah, that's what I've been doing.
In other Souls news, the new Dark Souls 3 DLC is set for March. Oh
bollocks! Yeah, I'd forgotten.
The Ringed City will introduce new characters to the game as players traverse the world of Dark Souls 3 in pursuit of the Slave Knight Gale. There will be new armor, weapons, and magic to check out along the way, and within the hellish Ringed City.
Okay, so I had a bit of a roller coaster with this announcement. So I read the Ringed City. Brain goes, ooh, Lordran, that was a city made of rings. Is it? Maybe? Sounds like it probably isn't.
I don't know. I think they seem to be petrol bombing everything that people liked.
Although it's the same thing. It's like the painted world or something else. Oh.
Yeah, it is a.
That's not the Ring City. It's not that one.
That last DLC just.
I really liked the boss. You know, I did enjoy the 3-stage Frida boss. I did enjoy that for being a bit. You know, it was weird. And I like a weird boss. It was hard, but it was weird. I enjoyed that, but just like more.
It just felt
Souls, and that isn't enough anymore, man.
Yeah, exactly. And it just felt tired to me. And speaking of tired, if you've seen this cover, Dark Souls 3: The Fire Fades Game of the Year edition has been announced with a terrible cover with a strip across the top saying that it's the Game of the Year edition, which appears like it's just somebody in the office has gone, oh, what should we do this like? And they've just looked around and saw like a Nescafe Gold Blend jar. Just gone, that, can we go to the pub? Or they gave it...
Or like a gold bar, chocolate bar somewhere. Like, that'll do.
They gave it to the bloke that does the T-shirts. You know, those T-shirts. Yeah. Hey, I love Dark Souls. Praise the sun. Watch out for cupboards. This Ottoman bites back.
Pretty good box ahead.
Yeah, just... yeah, we should do some of those. In better news, far better news. In an interview with Glixel, co-creator of Netflix The Expanse, Ty Frank, has been working on a game with From Software, with Kotaku wondering if it's the much-mused Armored Core reboot.
Okay.
They finished the piece with, "The Expanse is full of gruesome body-deforming zombies and the futility of man in the face of universe. So, Bloodborne 2?" So, we're also assured that it's not Dark Souls in space. Right? So, being a gentleman that's up for a challenge, I started watching The Expanse to see what it's like. There is also a really great quote that I found as well, which was interesting, but I found this sort of last night, which is not on the screen anymore, but basically it was like a really glowing quote from George R.R. Martin saying like it's been too long since we had a great sort of space opera.
Yeah.
So I started watching it. I think it was originally on Sci-Fi, and Netflix put money into it. Two different sort of stories that are playing out. One with a group of sort of ice miners that find a distress signal on an abandoned freighter, and also another tale of a detective that's looking for a missing person on a space station, which is set between Mars and Earth, and is people that sort of do lots of grunt work for the two sort of different factions and the tensions between the two. It starts off the space stuff side of the story is much more engaging. The detective stuff isn't. It's a bit ordinary in that regard, but gets better as it goes along and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and the two sides of things get to the point where they both appear in the room in a room at the same time, and it's fucking glorious. You just like Thomas Jane plays the detective. Like the previous
I like him.
Punisher. Yeah, he's great in it as well. And the cast is great. The special effects are great. Like the space stuff is very kind of elite dangerous. It's got that sort of slow space stuff to it, which I really quite enjoy. And the hilarious thing was I was watching it thinking, oh, the stuff with the detective sort of on board this space station, it's a bit Deus Ex. It's got that kind of... I mean, it's beautifully shot. It looks great. But I was thinking, it's a bit Deus Ex. And then who turns up? Elias Taufexis turns up.
What?
He's actually in it. I looked and I kind of went... And then I just heard like, I don't know what you mean by that. I was like, it's you. You're actually in it. And he's great in it as well. And I binge-watched all... the episodes that are on Netflix, I think about 12 or 13 episodes in 2 days.
Nice.
It's great. It's really great. And I think whichever they turn up at, whichever that writing turns up at, whether it be Armored Core or Bloodborne 2 or whatever, it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. So I enjoyed it. A great deal.
Sounds good.
So that's all of them newses.
Good news.
And like I say, I hope you've enjoyed the episodes.
I have, thanks.
And I'm going to go into a touch more detail about the specifics of Nioh after this. Just a few short bits, just to maybe kind of add to what was going on before. If you want to go in blind, if you like the early stuff, please, goodbye at this point. But if people kind of want a little bit more of a flavour, I will share. Like I say, I'm only a few levels into it, but I'll give you an idea of what those levels contain in a moment. So spoiler warning, final spoiler warning. Not really. Like
Play the music.
Not really like massive spoilers and stuff, but to give you an idea.
The spoilers will begin after the music.
Okay.
I might use that music.
Play a little bit of music.
It's not an awards show.
Oh, no. It's not. It's no crunch bag here.
I really want it though.
So are you all right with me sort of saying in a bit more detail about this stuff?
Yeah, I'm. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, okay, yeah. Fuck it.
So
Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
Right.
I'll have forgotten. So yeah.
Final spoiler warning. Here we go. So so the game starts off by telling you that there's a war between England and Spain, and
Right. I'm struggling to see how that links to Japan, but I'm interested.
and there are people working for the English government, the British government, who are looking for a substance called Amrita, and Amrita is basically like fragments of the Philosopher's Stone, and they're doing this behind Queen Victoria's back, but they believe it's for the great of the nation, and that they're eventually going to go towards Japan because they've heard that there is a quantity of Amrita within the demon realm in Japan, and like the unusual stuff that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Starts off with William, who has got the most beautiful Irish accent. Like really, really gruff but softly spoken, like beautiful Irish accent. So again, the meeting of those two at the start, I was like, I wasn't expecting that. And the first level starts off in London.
Right.
So you're in a cell, which again kind of does a bit of a nod and a wink towards Dark Souls. But there's this kind of spirit entity who kind of wakes you and basically points you towards a weakness in a wall, and you're just wearing pants at this point, and you've got no weapons. The first person that you fight, you are fighting with fists and kicks. So and it's a challenge. It's a real challenge to kind of get beyond them, but it's throwing you in the deep end with just one enemy. But it's getting you used to getting close, like just those two mechanics, like the light attack and the dark attack, and moving around and targeting, jumping, that kind of stuff. But it's not forcing anything particularly down your throat. It's just going, right, here's a few bits, have a bit of a twat about with him, and it's a little bit tough, but not too much. You go further on into the level, and you pick up your weapons and stuff like that. You learn about the shrines that are there. The first armor that you get, that you complete, you dress up as a beefeater.
What?
A beefeater.
Mate.
Complete with bowler hat.
Oh, that's not fair. You can't drop that on me.
I've just dropped that on you, and it's beautiful. It's a
Hang on a second. Quick, let me just. Okay, I bought it. Right.
It's a beautiful like armor set, and I was like, really? This is gorgeous. And so
don't say that because just to interject slightly, I was talking to Laura the other day. I've realised that the games that I like, that are Souls-like, are the ones that let me wear nice coats and hats.
Oh, there's some nice armour in the game anyway.
Bloodborne's got a nice coat, and Salt and Sanctuary's got some nice coats.
But seemed like a game that rather than putting you in like knight's outfit or like rags, the first armour that you complete in the game is a beefeater's outfit, complete with bowler hat.
Oh, I'm into it.
And it's like this beautiful, like black, an opening level in London. Never saw that coming. So it opens out into this castle. It's amazing when it's raining outside. You get used to the fighting mechanics and the way that the enemies draw towards you and stuff. You eventually go into this boss battle, which is great. And the bloke set in London, yeah. this guy that comes at you who eventually transforms into a bigger creature as well. So there's stages to it. Do you know what this guy's called?
Go for it.
Derek.
What?
The boss is called Derek.
Derek.
Which I love. Love. It's just, yeah, well played. So
what?
So, yeah, you're fighting this guy, and the fight, yeah, Derrick.
Oh, okay.
And it's something Derek, but it's still, it's very British. You're fighting this guy, and he dies, and there's this kind of very Metal Gear-like villain that turns up, who basically imbues the dead body with power, and he becomes like about 5 times as big and really starts like hammering into you. And then you defeat him, and like this villain says something to you, basically draws this fairy-like spirit out of you, like puts it into an emerald, and then disappears. And that's the point where William starts a voyage towards Japan, and he's going within a group of like 4 or 5 galleons, and as the journey is like incredibly arduous, and all of those galleons sink.
Oh, fuck.
As they're going towards Japan, like further and further, one by one, more and more pirates sort of come, and more of the galleons drop, until you kind of washed up on the beach in Japan, and you enter that opening level, and the boss battle of that opening level is on a galleon in itself. Ooh. Which is fantastic. Really, really good boss battle. But you meet a guy towards the end of that who's this Japanese guy who's speaking kind of in English, and he checks the time by reaching into his coat, pulling out a cat, looking into its eyes, and knowing what time it is.
What?
Yep.
That's not how you tell the time.
No. Well, and it's referenced in the level after that as Clock Cat. So you go into, like I say, it gives you the opportunity there to replay that level, and like I say, the enemies are in different positions, and you're trying to find the one man who's in the level who's controlling all of these goons, and you're trying to kind of free up the beach and stuff, and then you can move on to that mountainside stuff that I was saying. You start off into the mountain and going into those catacombs, and the cat appears again. Clock Cat on its own appears, starts talking to you. Then the spirit of a cat
Paddy here. There was a weird audio skip when we were recording. I don't know why. CJ was talking about something to do with this cat. Here we go.
It's bonkers.
Yeah. That.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like there are these like sort of really bizarre little quirks to it, which endear me towards it, because there's something quite stage-like and quite grandiose and quite off kilter that I really like about it. And it's just stuff like that and that story, which is why on Twitter last week it was like, don't let anybody spoil the story for you, because it's a belter. Obviously, if people aren't convinced by the stuff I said earlier, you're in for a penny, in for a pound with like these extra little teasers. But I'm hoping that those kind of things make people go, like you're going, like, he's Irish, he's set in London, it's pieces of the Philosopher's Stone, there's a war between England and Spain.
More importantly,
what?
bowler hat
and Beefeater costume.
Bowler hat on beef.
Yeah, so all of these little things threw me a curveball for what I was expecting, because everything that I'd seen was, the Japanese stuff, but that story's great, that lead-in's great, voice actor's fantastic. I'd also like it, as you go through the levels as well, when you find people who are dead that you take like a little bit of Amrita from, their ghost will speak a final memory to you, like it might be their final thought.
Okay.
Or it'd be like the way that they got killed, or somebody that they miss, and it's spoken as well in Japanese. It's spoken out loud. It's really well done. But yeah, I mean, what do you think of those wee teasers?
That sounds like okay. Not to parrot what you said, sounds like a fucking PS2 game, man.
Yep,
it sounds
exactly.
like a weird PS2 game.
And I don't know. That was the stuff that I wasn't expecting, and the fact that it gave me like the softly spoken, like not even like super brash, but like the softly spoken Irish guy. The war between Spain and England, starting off in London. The First Army is a beefeater's costume with bowler hat. All of these things, I was kind of. It really took me off guard, but in a way that I was grinning. I just thought it was great. The villain at the end of the first level is brilliant and sets up you wanting to like run across to Japan to try and find like this spirit that helped free you from that tower in London. The guy checking the time in a cat's eyes. That cat talking to you later on, and then another cat coming out of it that's wearing an eye patch that starts talking to you and possesses you.
It's like the cat's got a stand.
I dig it, and that PS2 thing, and I knew that you get what I was talking about. That really ambitious AAA, really ambitious like AA of PS2, and yet it is one of the prettiest games I've seen on my PS4.
Man,
if you've got PS4
good.
Pro, it's yes. You see what I mean, though, and it's not what I was expecting, and in many ways, I'm wondering if because Sony are handling the marketing as to whether they've hidden this stuff in the way that they played Bloodborne so well, and hid what Bandai Namco might have been upfront about straight away. I'm wondering if they've kind of hid this so that people can go, "Oh my god, this isn't what I was expecting."
Because the pre-release stuff is like, here's a Japanese-looking guy stabbing some monsters with a big sword. Like it looked more than that, but you know what I mean. Like it doesn't look like what you just described. It sounded like you were talking about a different game. So
how does that kind of make you curious then? Because it sounds like it's a little bit of a fire within you anyway.
Maybe, like like Christ.
I swear to God, like the Metal Gear aspects, not just the characters, but the sneaking, like the combat, like the Demon Souls meets Bloodborne in the combat, the quirk, the way that it looks, just how bloody replayable it is. I think you're shooing for this, mate. I really, really do. I think you'll get it. I think you'll get it so big.
Well, piss. Yeah, man.
Beefeater costume.
Oh, but why would I ever change?
You don't carry it through, unfortunately.
Bullshit.
The
DLC, please. I will pay you, Koei Tecmo. I will give you £5.
five of your Beefeater-based English pounds.
5 of my beef slices that I take from my wallet and give to you as a beef eater. Here are 5 slices of beef. Now let me wear the outfit.
It's proper nice as well.
Oh, I'm a sucker for a nice coat. You know that.
Yeah, I know you are. And like I say, you wash up on the shores of Japan in like sort of rags and stuff, but you soon start picking up some really, really nice gear. And also because it's not stuff generally that I'm wearing, because I'm not going kind of for a heavier build, but you get proper Shogun stuff and what are they called, those masks which are like demons masks.
Oh fuck.
Is it something like a togi or
nage togi, something like that?
Yeah. Like there's those kind of masks that are in there, and
kabuki.
Kabuki. That's it. Yeah. So there's lots of really different stuff that it's great. It's really good. It's really good.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Into it.
Yeah. I'll send you a pic of the Beefeater.
A cursory Google has found nothing so far, so that would be appreciated.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, I hope it's shed a little bit of light for folks that are looking to uncover a little bit more about Nioh, and then a little bit more again. But it's a belter, and as you know, if you've listened to this podcast before, you know I've always been honest about the way things have moved in regards to the series and stuff. But it's great. It's really good.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening. We'll explain in the next the Humanities, which shouldn't be too far away, as to what kept us from coming back, why we almost didn't come back, and lots of fun stuff as well, like telly we've been watching and other stuff we've been doing.
Comics you may have been reading, delicious books you may have purchased.
Plus, anniversary conversation within us. We have. So thanks for coming back. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed all the slices. And we will speak to you soon. Say hello to us on Twitter if you're listening. It's kind of always nice that to know that folks are enjoying stuff, and it's nice to connect, Anxious. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.